Good afternoon. I'm Chief Roundtree, Winston-Salem Police Department. The, the purpose of this is for me to take a few minutes to address the citizens of Winston-Salem concerning the in-custody death of Mr. Travis Page. Since I was out of town last week, this is my first opportunity to address the community. So first of all, I want to thank the media for being here and helping me getting this message out to the community. Also, special thanks to our Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Mr. James Taylor, for being here. Our City Manager, Lee Garrity, is here also. And also we have Dr. Nathan Scobins, our Police Chaplain, is also here today. First of all, I want to ensure the public that I and members of the Winston-Salem Police Department are fully cooperating with the District Attorney's Office and also the State Bureau of Investigations into the investigation of Mr. Travis Page. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are floating around in the community about evidence, about the body-worn camera footage, and other things. But I can assure the public that all evidence, be it physical or digital, has been preserved and is in the hands of the investigative agencies and or the DA's office. We understand that some groups want to rally, some of them want to protest. That's all well and good as long as it's peaceful. We respect the rights of all individuals to exercise their right to protest. So I'm grateful that we have people in the community that want to protest and look into this incident and make sure that everything is done well. But my hope is that the same spirit and eagerness carries forward for other things as well. Some of the other issues that we're dealing with in the community. So before I go any further, let's just recap for some that may not know the full story or have a good idea of what occurred. This incident occurred on December 9th, 2015 at approximately 7:30 p.m. in the 4400 block of Old Walkertown Road. The Winston-Salem Police Department received a call for service where a citizen reported a discharging of firearms in the 4400 block of Old Rural Hall Road. Police communications received 2 911 calls stating that a black male discharged a weapon at this location. Upon arrival, officers located Mr. Page, who matched the physical description of the suspect that was provided by the callers. There was a brief foot pursuit. Also, while attempting to detain Mr. Page, a brief struggle occurred, and one of the Winston-Salem police officers deployed his department-issued pepper spray. Upon gaining control of Mr. Page, he was placed in handcuffs, and at that point, he became unresponsive. Officers began life-saving efforts, which included CPR, sternum rubs. Officers also administered naloxone, which is a version of a opiate re-encountering. Officers also requested emergency medical services. Personnel from the Forsyth County Emergency Medical Services responded to the scene and transported Mr. Page to Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center, where he was pronounced deceased. At the scene, a handgun was recovered, and also 2.6 grams of cocaine was also located. As standard practice, the Winston-Salem Police Department contacted the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations, and they were requested to come in and handle the investigation involving the death of Mr. Page. Agents did respond to the scene, and they are the primary investigative agency. I can't answer any questions that's related to the SBI's criminal investigation. If you have questions that are related to the criminal investigation that's being conducted by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations, they can be contacted at area code 336-256-1362. Now, I can tell you about their general process, how things normally work in cases similar to this. I'm prohibited by law from sharing any personnel information or information directly related to the criminal case. I know some of you are going to ask, well, have you seen the video? Yes, I have seen the video. I saw the video upon my return. Some of you also going to ask me, well, what do you think about the video? And I can't tell you what I think about the video. It would be inappropriate, it would be irresponsible, and it would be illegal for me to make any kind of assumptions about what I've seen on the video prior to the completion of the criminal and the administrative investigation. Further, if I commented, I'm sure some of you would say, well, I've already made up my mind about the case. So, I also want to talk about some of the things that have been done since this incident occurred. And we have a flyer that'll be going around here in a few minutes, and you can follow along with that information. I'll give you a few minutes to receive that, so you'll have that information with you. Since this incident occurred, and within 5, maybe 10 minutes, I personally contacted Scott Williams, who is a special agent in charge of the North Carolina SBI in the Greensboro office. I immediately reassigned the 4 police officers who were the primary officers involved in this situation. Those officers are now on administrative duty, and the department's Professional Standards Division, Internal Affairs Section, is also initiating a internal review of this incident. I've been in constant contact with the city manager. I've been in contact with our chair of the Public Safety Committee. I've also been in contact with Bishop Todd Fulton, who's the president of the Winston-Salem Ministers Conference and vicinity. Last week during my absence, Assistant Chief Scott Brooker, he met with members of the Winston-Salem Ministers Conference in response to this incident. They met here in this building. Also, I directed members of the police department to attend Council Member Durham Montgomery's community meeting on the evening of December the 10th in expectation that we would have citizens at the meeting that may have questions about the incident. Also, I directed departmental staff to attend a pre-scheduled trust talk that we had at the Polo Park Recreation Center on December the 11th. On yesterday, I had a brief meeting with Mr. Page's mother. She had some questions about the general process, and myself and Sergeant Melly with our Professional Standards Division were able to assist her with that information. I've also met with the District Attorney's Office, the District Attorney himself, Jim O'Neill, and discussed this case and the investigative process. And I can also add that District Attorney Jim O'Neill is in constant conversation with the Medical Examiner's Office and also the State Bureau of Investigation, and he's attempting all things that he can do to have this case expedited, and also the case is done in a thorough manner. I know some will say, regardless of what I say here today, some people are going to judge this incident based on a lot of the national events that they see around the country. They're going to judge this incident based on things that has happened here in this city 30 years ago. But I'm good with all that. I'm good with history. I'm good with us knowing about our past. That's how we learn. That's how we learn from our mistakes. That's how we improve. But I think we all have the same objective here. And that should be to determine the cause of Mr. Page's death. There's a common theme across the country where cities want an independent investigation. Well, we have that here. We have an independent investigation. We have the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation that's conducted that independent investigation. But I also urge the citizens of Winston-Salem to let the investigation run its course. You know, we don't want to rush it. The SBI want to make sure that they get everything correct. Because I'm sure if something comes out where it's you or someone perceived that something is not done correctly, there's going to be questions about that. So I ask everyone to give the SBI time to do the investigation, and I'm sure they will get the information out as swiftly as possible. And again, I can't speak for the SBI. I can't speak for the district attorney's office, so I can't answer any questions that's related to their investigation. I can answer general questions about the process, but I can't answer any questions related to the criminal investigation, nor can I answer any questions that's related to the internal administrative investigation. So that's all I have for you today.
Yes.
Margaret?
As you know, there has been calls across the community, starting with the city council and many others, asking for transparency and allowing the video of what happened that night to be released as soon as possible. Chief, what is your stand on that? Do you want that video released, the autopsy report released, the 911 calls of that night?
My stand is I have to follow the law. If I don't, you're going to be looking at me like I've done something wrong. So all the evidence is part of the case. That's what we're trying to explain to folks. At the appropriate time, it is a possibility that it could be released. But currently, under North Carolina law, anything that's related to that criminal case that everybody wants done so independently is part of the case.
Once that's done, do you want that video released?
Once it's done, I'll be glad for the public to see it.
Chief, can you tell us a little bit more about your meeting with Paige's mother? What was her attitude like? Was she responsive, upset, obviously?
I mean, she came down here for information. So, of course, anytime a citizen comes here, we're going to help them any way that we can. Initially, Sergeant Melly and another representative from the Professional Standards Division went down and spoke with her. I learned that she was here, and I went down and I spoke with her personally. But, yeah, she was receptive. She was a nice lady, during that brief encounter, from what I understand.
Chief, I know you say you have seen the body cam video from that night, and you can't talk about the body cam video. I have to ask you the question anyway. Does, in your mind, what you saw on that videotape suggest anything that your officers may have done anything wrong or acted improperly in any way?
Thank you for the question, Margaret. I think I've already explained to you. It would be irresponsible for me to make any comments about that video at this point.
What about whether or not the video is clear? Because sometimes the cameras will point up or something, or they pointed at him the whole time?
Oh yeah, you can see based on the officer's field of view. Of course, the cameras are worn up here. We've done a few segments with probably many of you here in this room about when we first initiated this body camera project, where the body cameras are worn. So of course, you're not going to have 360 degrees view, but you do have the view from each individual officer.
So once the body cam video is released, will it be clear enough for everyone to see everything that happened, so there leaves no question in anybody's mind as to what happened that night?
Well, I can't speak for people. People can nitpick anything that you show them. Michael?
How many body cameras were there? All four officers were on body
No, and I think we've already answered that question. The trainee was not equipped with a body camera. He's still in training. He was not equipped with a body camera. The other three primary officers were. I think I saw that question. I think you asked that question last week when I was out of town. I saw it on email. So that question has already been answered.
For the 4 officers who responded, I don't know if you can answer this, but it's my understanding that at least 2 were working on a possible missing teenager case.
There were 2 officers who were in the area in close proximity that were on another call. Yes.
So then those 2 officers met up with the other 2 who responded?
Yes.
Okay.
Chief, you mentioned this earlier, that, there are people out there who want to, because of all of this other stuff that's happening around the country, may want to compare Winston-Salem PD to places like Chicago and Baltimore and Ferguson. Is that this?
What are you asking me? Is it this?
Is it that?
I can't answer that question. What is that?
Is Winston-Salem?
Winston-Salem Police Department, well, we can speak on our record. We can speak on our record from our past performance and some of the things that we've done in this community. I can't speak for Chicago, Ferguson, all these other places. I can only speak for Winston-Salem.
And what would you say about Winston-Salem PD?
I just said it.
As far as the original call, discharging the firearm happened at, near that Family Dollar on Old Rural Hall. Have you guys been able to look at any of the surveillance video, determine if he actually was the one that was firing the firearm?
I can't answer any investigative questions. We will get to that point eventually, but I can't answer those questions at this point.
Based on something that you have already said with Mr. Page having a handgun on him, do you, during the...
I can't speculate on who did what. The investigation will determine everything once it's said and done.
You said Mr. Page was found with 2.6 ounces of cocaine on him. Can you confirm that he ingested
I
possibly
cannot.
any narcotics?
I cannot.
Chief, can you tell us what that handgun was?
I do not know. Honestly, I don't know. All I know was a handgun.
And that was found at the scene,
It
is
was
that what
found
you said?
at the scene. I think I read that. It was found at the
I'm
scene.
just trying to make sure I.
It was found at the scene.
I think initially it was reported that the handgun was found on Mr. Page.
Well, I think now you're nitpicking words. Was it found on him or was it found at the scene? He was at the scene.
I mean, there's a difference if it was on him or if it was on the ground or
Okay.
anything like that. That's what my question is.
Well, I think that's all we have at this point. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you for getting this information out to the public. Thank you.